I wanted to come and talk to you guys a little bit about our trip that we just took and the coronavirus updates in our family and a little bit about the timeline and just to let you all know what's been going on with the Six Blind Kids. So by now, hopefully you all have seen our videos and you know that we have been working very, very hard with SleepSafe beds to try and get a SleepSafe bed to Aidan Killen, who has been very much in need of one for many years. You can go watch the previous videos and see that whole story and the backstory and all that, but we have been working on this since August. And it's now March, so like 7 months we've been working on trying to get this bed delivered to Aidan. And before I go any further, I would like to extend a tremendous gratitude and a big thank you to SleepSafe Beds, because basically, you guys, all I did was I had the guts to ask. Okay, and SleepSafe has been the very generous donor and donated the bed, as I've said before, in its entirety to make sure that Aidan had a nice, safe, comfortable spot to sleep in and to give his family the peace of mind that they really deserve. So we're very grateful, and you can go watch our other videos before this one, but this one is more of a backstory and an explanation because, as you know by now, things didn't go exactly the way we had planned. So as I said, we've been planning this since August, and this trip that we were going to take to Alabama, which is where the Killen clan lives, has been already postponed once before due to our own personal family crisis, which now there is a video on our Patreon site that goes into a little bit more detail about that. I don't think it's necessary to share that with everyone, but anyway, that thank God that has been resolved once and for all, completely, totally done. So we had made plans again to go on this trip to Alabama. And don't you know that the coronavirus craziness was unfolding as we were getting ready to leave. So many of you, I think sometimes you guys think that these videos that we make for you are done in real time or something, but please know that we've been home safe and sound, bunkered down just like the rest of you in the country for over a week now. We were gone a grand total of 30 hours. We left on a Sunday night. We went straight to our hotel. We did stop at the Cracker Barrel to eat, but we measured that. We measured our risk very carefully, and we went during an off hour, so that there weren't very many people in the restaurant. That's the only sit down meal we had. We went straight to our hotel, which was in a very kind of a remote place. There weren't very many people there. We did stay. We were heading, our plans were to go from family to family, and no crowded places or anything like that. We had packed with it was just unfolding, you guys, and we had packed with our Clorox wipes and our toilet paper and our hand soap, and we had everything, extra food and water and everything that you could possibly think of in the unlikely event that we either weren't able to get home or, got stuck along the road without being able to feed the kids or whatever. So we were planned up for all of those contingencies. It was a very difficult decision to make to go. We debated for days about this. We did. For as soon as the thing broke, we were debating and debating. And one thing I've learned in my life is that these things do happen. This one I'll give you, okay? The way we're doing this is completely new. It doesn't mean that we've never had an epidemic or a pandemic or any medical crisis like this in our country before, because we have. What makes this so different is social media. And the fact that we're getting all of our news instantaneously, and not all of it is accurate, and much of it does create fear and anxiety in people that is unnecessary. I don't want you to think for 1 minute that we don't take this seriously, because we take it very seriously. We are, responsible, conscientious, caring citizens. We would never put our own kids or even ourselves at risk, let alone anyone else. We just wouldn't do that. We're just not the kind of people to do that. And yet we're very responsible. We don't act, or not act just based on fear. We try not to live in fear. And so we are ones who would take measured risk. We're very careful and cautious, and we understand what's going on. And the videos are not in real time. So like I said, we've been home for over a week now. Many of you still don't realize that. You see the first video and you're still, coming in and shaming us for being out on the road. And we have to stop that, okay? Because here's the thing. You're not going to, and I understand where you're coming from, but you're not going to catch any virus by watching a YouTube video. We're not going to spread a virus by making a YouTube video. And we traveled for 30 hours at the very beginning of this crisis. Now, I've gone ahead and made a little timeline of the emails that I was receiving from the school. We left, I believe it was the 15th of March, if I'm not mistaken. We left on a Sunday night, and we ended up home on Monday night. But the first email that came to our school was on March the 9th. It was the very first email. And they assured us that there was a very low risk to the community, and just told us to, wash our hands and use common sense. And they issued a possible planning scenario in case we had to take time off and use up some snow days. That was the first email, March 9th. The second email, the next day, and as many of you know by now, this has been a very fast-moving, in some cases, minute by minute and hour by hour thing, and none of us knows what's going on. We're all trying to do our part. We're doing our part. Our family is doing our part, and being very, very cautious in the meantime. But the second announcement came on the 10th, that announced that Monday, the day that we ended up coming home, they announced that Monday was to be a teacher work day in order to train for the potential of online classes. It was at that time that my antenna started to go up, and I realized that this thing was beginning to be serious. We were very aware of it from the entire, during the entire time, watching the news, being careful about what we were watching, getting our news sources from many different sources, paying very close attention, and doing our, research and looking at the CDC guidelines and the whole 9 yards. Now, on March 11th, they were still talking about doing travel training with the schools. Schools were open. On the 12th, we got an email from one of the high schools, and the principal was warning seniors to not take their, self-imposed senior skip day. He was warning the kids that you had to be in school. Now, on March 12th, we got another email, and we were starting to see field trips and extracurricular activities cancel. On the 12th, also, another email came in that said that Bethany's work site was closed to students. Now, Bethany, for those of you who don't know, she is in a job training program through the public school system, and she actually works at an assisted living facility. And the students didn't belong in there because this virus apparently is a great risk to our seniors. And I even wondered why the kids were still going there. But on the 12th, they did close that work site down. Now, school was still in session at this point. Also on the 12th, we got a note from the superintendent of schools that our schools were to remain open. He was adamant, and we had already seen a neighboring county close their schools, but he was adamant that our doors were going to remain open, and that the reports from the health department continued to say that there was little risk to the community. I think it's pretty safe to say that we've all been learning as we're going along on this, taking all the information and making our decisions day to day and minute by minute. Now, later that day, we got an email saying that schools were closed on Friday. Now, this was the Friday before we were leaving, which was going to be the following Sunday night. But on that Friday, what's interesting about this is that on Wednesday, when I don't know, one of these announcements, I've written a timeline here, but one of those announcements came in through email, and I made the decision to go on ahead and take my kids out of school. I took them out 2 days before, well, actually 1 day as it turns out, but we had a scheduled teacher work day for the following Monday, and I figured, well, we were leaving on vacation, we had that planned, and so I actually took the kids out of school for that Thursday and Friday, and lo and behold, they ended up closing the schools on that Friday because they wanted to ease the fears of the community. Because our superintendent was getting, slammed with a lot of hate email, as you can imagine, because a neighboring county had closed and people were naturally and, understandably afraid. And so they called on him to close the schools, which he did for Friday. So at this point, we had Friday closed and Monday, which was a teacher work day. Now on the 13th, they and these emails were coming in several a day from the school system. They announced a grab and go lunch program because, guys, even in these affluent communities, there are so many families that they don't have the resources, and many people do depend on the school for their kids to get a nutritious breakfast and lunch. And so that's very, very important to our community that those students continue to get, what they need from the schools. And so they announced a grab and go lunch program, and they've been doing a great job with that. Just ramping up. Since then, they've been ramping up different sites and really taking care of the community that way. So later that day on the 13th, forgive me because I am reading this off of a piece of paper with just notes that I've made, but later that day, Friday the 13th of all days, there was an announcement by our governor, and he ordered all of the schools closed through April 10th. So what they've done, and this hasn't changed to this date, now that has not changed. As far as we know, schools are still only closed until April 10th. That is the end of here in our county, that is the end of our spring break. We haven't heard anything else to date about anything else. So as far as we know, that's what's going on. And that staff day to train for the potential for online training, that's been postponed now. So over that weekend, this was all before we left on our trip. Over that weekend, GMU, the school that David goes to, the college that he attends, announced that they were going to extend spring break by 1 week. So that's what we thought, that spring break was going to get extended by 1 week. David was not supposed to go with us. And then with that announcement, we packed him up and he went along with us. Now, what happened also over the weekend that gave me a lot of concern was that we got an email from Obed's school, of all places, and they were making appointments for students to come and pick up their belongings from the lockers. And to, at that point, they were going to be issuing laptops for the potential scenario of students to have to take online classes. We're going to make another video about that, all of that after this, but this is just basically to catch you up to date with where we're at now. That scared me a little bit. And so I told Joe that we needed to go over and clean out David's dorm room because I had, just bought him a whole bunch of clothes and things. And I was really afraid that maybe we wouldn't get our belongings back. I didn't know what kind of cleaning procedures were going to happen, if they were just going to go and throw everything away. We're still learning. I don't know everything that's going on, but you start to read between the lines of the information that you're getting, which can be very dangerous, okay? But we did go over and we did pick up David's belongings, and I'm glad now that we did, because since then they have closed the college for the rest of the semester. David is still on spring break today, but on Monday, this coming Monday, he will be starting his online classes to finish out his semester. So that decision has been made, and that's the only one that has been made in our county to date. Now, Sunday we left, but we packed extra. We packed our Clorox wipes, our soap, our toilet paper, extra food, all that, because we had no idea what was happening. And as I've stated, we do not live in fear. We felt our responsibility, you guys, to see this project through, because let me tell you what the deal is. Aidan needs that bed. He needs it very, very badly. Now, Kat has been from the Killen clan. She has been there. She has 6 children. She's got a newborn infant at home and 2 special needs sons. And her husband has been out of the country. Now, by the time he gets, you see this video, he will have gotten home. But we were concerned for her too, because Aidan had already broken through his bed that week, and it's a very dire situation. She wasn't getting any sleep. It's very, very hard for all of you single parents. You know what it's like, and all of you moms who, when your husbands go out of town and you have to go it alone. I know I've been there, and it's not any fun. And we wanted to do what we could do quickly to be able to help her. And so we made that decision to go on ahead and go. We had checked with SleepSafe before we left the house, checked with everyone to make sure that everything was still on. And we were still on. Okay, but as you know now from watching our videos, that things moved very, very rapidly. And I would like to say that even the video, our most previous video, where Ed is telling us about, borders potentially closing and all that, that was pure speculation, you guys. And I want you to understand that. I even had a problem with posting that video, because I don't want anybody to think that actually happened. It has not happened. I think there was a fear, that it could happen. Joe and I had even considered that ourselves, and thought, gosh, what if that happens or whatever. And so we understand that they did not want to deliver the bed because they didn't want to put their employees at risk. I think they made the right choice. But at the end of the day, and that's when we did turn around and come home, because, we were just, there was no point in us continuing the trip at that point. But the most important thing here was that Aidan got his bed. And he did. We talked about it later on. We did have them. They shipped the bed out to him. Now, Asa, Kat's husband, and her father-in-law, and she will be assembling the bed. There are good instructions there. They should be able to do it without any trouble. When Obed's bed came, our bed was assembled by a white glove service, which is the delivery team that comes in and puts the bed together for you. But guess what? They canceled all the white glove service, and so we made a decision, all of us together, to just get him his bed, and they feel confident that they can assemble the bed. If they need to get help from the guys at SleepSafe, they'll be available to them, to answer any questions or whatever that might arise. But please go and subscribe to their channel if you haven't already. Go visit them. She's done a beautiful video about the progression of their need to have this bed. It's a very well done video that was very, very hard for her to do. It's very emotionally charged. And you guys, I'd like to talk a little bit for a moment on that subject, that that family has taken an awful lot of criticism and hate and over the beds that they have found the need to have to build for their son to be safe. It's just nothing short of mommy shaming. It's just wrong. And what I hope that we can do as a community is go over there and show them some love. They don't have comments, but you can certainly upvote their video. You can watch their video. It's a long one, but we're hoping that it's so well done. I have had the opportunity to see it, and I really believe that that video will make an impact on some of the insurance companies to make things a little bit easier, down the road for some of these other people to get their beds. And so we have to keep the borders open so that we can all get our toilet paper. You guys, we have to keep commerce moving and, and things moving along, and so that we can get the supplies and things that are needed from our truckers. And I think that, to close down to non-essential travel, that's brilliant. It will help us to slow this thing down and get a handle on it all quicker so that we can all get back to normal sooner. And we will. We'll all get back to normal. And a year from now, we're going to be going, Corona who? Corona what? We're going to forget about it. And it's a very tragic and sad situation for those who have become ill and who have lost loved ones. Our hearts go out to all of you. We're so sorry and devastated right along with you as members of the human race. We're very, very sorry. And we don't take it lightly. We do use a lot of humor. Joe and I, in 33 years of marriage, we have gone from crisis to crisis to crisis, it seems. And without humor, a sense of humor and laughter, we wouldn't even be able to survive. And so you guys, fear will kill you. Fear will kill you too. And it doesn't mean that we take things lightly at all, but you have to know when to laugh a little bit. You can laugh at your own circumstances and situations, and it doesn't mean that you have less compassion or love for your fellow human. So are you interested in knowing some of the plans that we had on this almost happened road trip? I know that some of you are going to have this question, especially because in our last video we talked about going to see Melody. And some of you who've been around for a long time, you'll probably get that hint and know who we're talking about. But please go watch this adoption awareness video that we did last year that will explain the story in detail. But Melody is a young lady who lived with us for 2.5 years. We were supposed to have adopted her. And because of our unemployment situation, we were not able to get approved. It's a long, long story. Someday when we do finally get to see her again, we will bring more of that story to you. It's really an interesting one. But, it's just like our theme song that we have on our channel that talks about, the meant to be. You can't stop believing in the meant to be. Because in that crisis that we had to endure, 6 years of unemployment, and her coming to our home smack in the middle of that, and then not being able to continue parenting her, she's exactly where she needs to be, you guys. And she wouldn't be there. And let me tell you something. Joe's employment offer letter and the ICPC agreement that allowed her to travel to her new state crossed in the mail. They crossed in the mail. And had we gotten his employment letter one day sooner, she would still be here. It wasn't meant to be. It's meant to be that she is where she is. But we were to have visited with them, and for the first time in about 2 years, we were going to see her. She's doing very, very well, and so that kind of broke my heart. But we'll go again. We'll redo our trip later when everything clears from the virus situation and all that. We'll go again and we'll see them. But from there, we were going to go spend the time with the Killens. And then on Friday, after the bed delivery, which was to have been on that Thursday, we were actually going to go with them to the Helen Keller birthplace so that you guys could see that and learn a little bit about the whole Helen Keller story. And we were going to have met with some members of the Lions Club that works close in hand with the vision impaired community, and we were going to talk about some of those things, which we will do that also later on down the road. But that was the planned trip, and then we were going to turn around and come home the following weekend. But whatever's meant to be will be. You don't know what things, that could have happened that would have been bad didn't, because we came home. You don't know what good will come of this that wouldn't have come of it if we had gone. We just believe in the meant to be, you guys. So, sometimes through these hardships and the things that we endure, good things do come from it. I think that good things are going to come from this. And I'm thankful that you all are very understanding and supportive and compassionate. And I know that you all are gonna be there for them. I think that you'll enjoy, watching them unbox and assemble the bed and learning more about their family, because they're a pretty amazing family. And just to prove how fast this news is moving, my husband just called me into his office just this minute and told me that our governor in Virginia has just now closed all schools for the remainder of the school year. Things are about to get interesting.
Every change